All right,
All right,
ladies and
cool.
gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. And my guest joining me today, he's a Survivor legend, and he's better known as the Dragon Slayer. Coach Wade, how are you doing, sir?
Awesome, brother. Doing good. Thanks for having me today.
Did I nail the intro?
Absolutely. Got it, man. Hey, Dragon Slayer, Coach Wade, legend. I mean, man, you throw any of those names out, I'll be eating out of the palm of your hand.
Well, I know that dad life's taken a lot more of your command these days, but do you still get that Survivor itch from time to time, or is that kind of past at this point?
No, I mean, I still get asked. I've told them no the last couple of times. I've been asked for some other shows as well. And at the moment, no, I'm straight. It's cool. I just living the life of Riley up here in Northern California. But you never say never. I retired. Heck, man, I retired from podcasting, and here I am. I was like, I'm not doing any more podcasts. About, I don't know, 2 years ago, I just got sick of it, man. I'm like, I am done. So you never say never. It's like any good superhero. The Dragon Slayer, in my opinion, will probably arrive on the scene at the exact right moment. And so we'll see. I think, they're toying around with a legend season. That would be interesting. Maybe my kids will be old enough to, to feel comfortable for me to leave them. I do a lot of the, ins and outs. I pack their lunches for school. I make them breakfast. I make them dinner. I tuck them into bed at night. My wife owns a dance studio, so she's busy, during those crucial hours a lot of the time. So I'm in the trenches, and I friggin' love it. It's the greatest adventure I've been on so far, and I've been on a few of them.
Have the kids gotten a chance to check you out in any past seasons, or are they not old enough yet?
Yeah, my 13-year-old, we started watching Token Cheens. I haven't watched my season since they aired. So that was kind of cool to start going through that with him. The youngest two, 5 and 8, they're not ready yet. But I mean, they all know. They start talking about being famous, and I knocked that off like immediately. Being famous or whatever we think that we are. When we go on the show, that's not all it's cracked up to be. It's certainly not what the meaning of life is. I think the world will sell you something different. But try to keep them. I try to keep myself humble. I try to keep them grounded because they're always asking about it. I got a crooked nose, big hawk-like nose, and I haven't changed my hairstyle. And I still am about the same weight as when I went on Survivor the first time. So a lot of people recognize me. Anyway, any place I go, I wouldn't say I'm handsome like you, but it's like I've got, striped features. So people recognize me all the friggin' time. It hasn't dropped off. I figured it would drop off, so my kids are around that a lot. And I try to keep them grounded. That's my job as a dad to emphasize the true points and the true meaning of life.
Yeah, so if you run into someone in person, then say if they recognize you just normally on the street, do you introduce yourself as coach, or is the Ben thing ever come up?
No, the Ben thing never comes up. I was a college soccer coach for 22 years. If you're not going to call me coach, that's like you saying, call me whatever, and I call you, dipshit or something like that. It's disrespectful to call, a head college coach of 3 decades by their first name. So when people recognize me, of course, they're not going to come up and say Ben. If somebody says, "Hey, Ben Wade, I recognize you from Survivor," I wouldn't give them the time of day. I mean, I worked hard to brand that name while I was coaching. When I went on Survivor, right before I went on, Jeff was like, "So, do we call you Ben or Benjamin?" And all through casting, I was like, "Coach Wade, Coach Wade, Coach Wade." And going through casting, and Jeff says, "So, do we call you Ben or Benjamin?" I said, "You guys are going to call me Coach." And he kind of took a step back, and he said, "Okay." And when it was all said and done, I kind of had an exit interview with him, and he was like, "Man, good job on that. Good job on us calling you Coach." And by that time, I'd even forgotten about it. That first conversation. So people always come up to me, and they're actually, now it's interesting, the Dragon Slayer moniker has really come around to people actually referring to me as such, kind of as a term of endearment. Yeah. So I actually get when people come up to me, they usually say Dragon Slayer, and they are excited, that they can kind of connect that connect that name to me.
Yeah, there's like a certain like respect level, I feel like, when establishing that and having someone call you coach, right? So like if a teacher is teaching a class, the students aren't going to call her by her name or him by their name. They're going to call them
Right.
Mr. or Mrs. so and so. Is it more so about
Right.
like the respect thing with you is why you want to go by coach because it's like an honor to be referred to as someone that's leading, or was there anything against like the Ben name?
Um, I mean, I tell you the truth. That's what people call me. It's only the people that are involved with my symphony in the town that I live in that call me Ben, or sometimes they call me Maestro, to be funny. They're the only people in my circle of friends that call me coach. I started being called coach in college. I coached all my fraternity, intramural teams, did chalk talk, did video. I mean, I always wanted to be a coach. And so, is it a respect thing? Sure. And my friends call me Ben, like, my symphony friends call me Ben. That's cool. My boss calls me coach. Um, my former boss calls me coach. So I just think it's just like, that's who I am. Maybe it's a little bit of a respect thing. But it's just like, dude, like I said earlier, it's just, it's actually just human decency. If you were to say, call me such and such, and I were to say, yeah, okay, and called you a different name, that's just, who would want to do that? That would seem silly. And, I said it on the show. Even my parents called me coach for a while. And that kind of originated from my mom calling me chickpea in public one time. And I just told her, I said, Mom, would you please stop it? I'm 26 years old. For the love of all that's holy, stop calling me chickpea. And she was like, okay, what do you want me to call you? You want me to call you Coach Wade? And she started calling me that. And it was really funny. So when I said that on Survivor, my parents obviously don't go around calling me coach. But for a time, I was just like, I'd rather you call me that than chickpea.
Yeah, that's definitely a much better suited nickname, I would say, than Chickpea.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you certainly have kind of done something with the Dragon Slayer name. Like, obviously, I would say when your seasons were first premiering, social media quite hadn't found its footing yet. But now with like the added social media, you're able to kind of like use that name as it's almost like your brand now.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, if you look at my Instagram, this is not a knock on anybody else. But if you look at most people that have been on Instagram, I mean, most people that have been on a reality show, they're sitting out there, every product. I get that stuff all the time, man. I get 20 people a week saying, why don't you promote this product and this product? You look at my Instagram, it's pure. I got nothing on there like that. I'm not branding anybody else's stuff. I don't need that. I don't need the money. I don't need that recognition. And so, the I didn't even pay attention to my social media. I started them, posted very sporadically, and during my seasons, they told us you cannot post on social media. Now they want you to interact. And so, I felt like I was kind of late to the party with social media. But when COVID happened, dark cloud descended on the universe, and people needed something. They needed some type of positivity, because it was like really doom and gloom there for a while. So I started paying attention then about 2.5 years ago. Built up the followers, but again, I'm not going to go out there and I don't want to say the wrong word. So I don't want to go out there and gigolo myself out for followers. So I just don't do that. But I'm comfortable with what it is. I think I have a platform. The Dragon Slayer definitely is a brand. I don't sell T-shirts. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I might one day. Other people are doing it. Other people are ripping off my name and making money. So maybe I will one day. But for the moment, I'm comfortable with just letting them do that. And I focus on bringing light to the world. I mean, that's like my number 3 meaning of life is we've all got magic inside of us. We've all got kindness. We've got love. We have joy. The world tries to beat it out of us. I was in middle school and kids didn't think it was cool that I was traveling around the world and wearing different clothes and being kind and being joyous. So, they kind of like robbed me of that for a few years, and sensitivity, that kind of stuff. We've all got that stuff, man. If we're not going to give that to our fellow human beings, humanity is going to continue on this downward spiral.
Hmm. Was upbringing tough for you?
No. I just there's a couple of years where I was like, wow, I better be a tough guy. or else I'm going to get friggin', raked over the coals. So no, I had a great childhood. I traveled the world. My father was a world famous mathematician. He had Fulbright scholarships, National Science Foundation grants. We lived in a bunch of other countries, but we always had a home base in the States. Grew up in the South, but my parents were from California, so I never had that awkward stage. But I think, like you come to that realization that people are going to take from you, and you've got to be able to protect yourself in order to, keep people from taking advantage of you and abusing you and running over you. So I think that as I got older and more stable, I think that sensitivity came out more when I started having kids. I realized, wow, you don't always have to be the tough guy to nurture and to take care of people and to protect people. So that's kind of evolved back into that person maybe I was when I was younger.
Yeah, maybe in a way your younger years kind of shaped you and molded you for when you got older. So that way, once you got onto Survivor, and even when you were coaching and such, it built you and molded you into a tougher person to take on such responsibilities.
I think so. I mean, I've always tried to do great things. I've always tried to be the best at what I've done. I've obviously failed on that in Survivor in terms of winning, but in terms of being a recognizable character, I'm probably in the top 10. I say that with, all humility. But I've always done great things. So when you do great things, and you cut somebody from a soccer team that spent 10,000 to fly from another country, and you cut them the first day of practice, they're not going to say good things about you, right? And when you wear toe rings and painted toes long before anybody was doing that, when you're the best trumpet player in the world, people are going to take pot shots at you. So I think that people have been making fun of me my whole life. I've always had a very intensely loyal and large inner circle of people, and anybody outside of that circle, can piss off. And I think, that was early on. I realized that you have two choices in life. You can be a wallflower. You can be middle of the road. You can do nothing great. You can not push the norm. You can not go against the flow. You can do the status quo. You can be like all the other lemmings out there that want to be like everybody else. Sell yourself out on Instagram. Hope that the phone rings to get back on a reality show. You can do all that kind of stuff, or you can be authentic and you can be an original, and you can put your stamp on things. When you put your stamp on things, when you do the opposite of what I just said, you're going to face controversy. You're going to face adversity. Those are great moments, and nothing great has ever been accomplished without adversity. So I relished those things, and my whole life kind of prepared me for Survivor. It did, but even the toughest of us, man, it got me down. That second Survivor, I came in with a plan to really seem like I was more human and not this character that was the Dragon Slayer. And I came in, with a little bit more chip on my shoulder, and broke down, and that was also a very empowering moment, because it was like, hey, you can be yourself and have people talk about you, or you can not wear feathers in your hair and you can do just like everybody else and you won't be recognized. So anyway, it's been I've had a great life, man. I've got no complaints, and those valleys that we go through, those are the only times that we grow. And knowing that, I don't have it all figured out, but knowing that as I get older and trying to instill those lessons to my children, my students, anybody else around me, that's part of my mission, I think, right now.
Mm-hmm. How did you maybe get introduced to the orchestra at first?
To the orchestra?
Like to teaching the orchestra?
Oh yeah, okay. So I mean, I was like I said, I was actually, when I was 18 or maybe 17, voted the best trumpet player in the world by the International Trumpet Guild. Flew to Dallas for an international competition. To that point in my life, I had actually won every single competition that I ever entered, whether it was regional, state, United States. And I truly had a gift of music from God. And my father was a trumpet player, and so I grew up in a very musical family. Did what I wanted to do. When I got out of college, I put my trumpet away, did not play it for many years. When I moved to Susanville, a small town in Northern California, to start their college soccer program at their community college, I realized there was a serious lack of culture here. And so somebody found out that I played the trumpet. They asked if I wanted to do a performance of the Messiah. I said, sure. I dusted off the trumpet, started playing again, realized that having an orchestra could really fulfill this community. And so I started, finding musicians, started small groups, a brass quintet, a woodwind quintet. That kind of morphed into that really profound moment in my life when I said to these few musicians, "What if we started an orchestra?" To me, it was just like a side thing, like a little side hustle, a lark. It would be fun, impact the community, but it ended up being something, especially with Survivor, derailing my soccer career. It was actually something that became kind of like at the forefront of my life in terms of career and in terms of joy, longevity. And so it was something where that very first day I stood on the podium, there was like 18 musicians. We were terrible. I was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. And I actually said to the musicians, I said, "Hey, if anybody wants to come and conduct, here's the baton." I had retired, high school band directors, retired choir directors in the orchestra. And, they said, "No, you do it. You're up there. You do it." So, and then I got a master's in music conducting. And then, then that's another chapter of mine. So it was something that just kind of stumbled into my lap with a lot of things. Survivor stumbled into my lap. Coaching, I wanted to do. Trumpet playing, I wanted to do. The symphony, just kind of like fell into my lap. But those open doors that happen once in a lifetime without any intrepidation or hesitation, I have really just jumped through with both feet. My wife says that I'm an opportunity junkie. When the door opens, I immediately think, is God opening up this door? Am I supposed to go through this door? Am I going to regret not going through this door? And that's really shaped my life. The kayaking thing really fell in my lap as well. So there's been those moments where I've forged my destiny. There's been other moments where I feel God has provided the opportunity to create that destiny from nothing.
Was soccer your first passion, or was music?
Music was my passion. Music was something. I played baseball really seriously when I was younger. And then in high school, the baseball coach actually was the soccer coach. So my best friend was on the soccer team. And my senior year, he said, "You should come out, man. We need some players." So I came out, played on a club team at the University of Tennessee. They didn't have a varsity men's team. I'm not a good soccer player. But it was like I really wanted to coach. So actually, my first coaching job was to start a baseball team at Simpson College, and they asked if I wanted to coach another sport while the men's team was getting off the ground. And they were like, "Do you want to coach women's soccer?" And I'm like, "Women's soccer? How many people are on the field?" I had to go back to the basics. I was calling my friends to ask. And coaching baseball and soccer side by side for the first 4 years of my career, and realizing that I really developed this passion for the game of soccer. And my best friend, who is the men's coach, is an old retired semi-professional English soccer player. He took me over to England during the '98 World Cup when it was in France, and we went and watched every single game. And really, I got to see the East End, these hard working class English blokes that really just wept when they lost. And my friend was like, "Do not say anything." When they lost to Argentina, he was like, "They're looking for any excuse to smash somebody. And if you have any type of accent, it does not matter. You look different anyway." So we scuttled out the door, and there were roving packs of people in the streets. The streets were like black man and the east end of London. These people were looking to just pulverize some poor international or somebody that had a different accent. So I didn't say a dicky bird, as they say in England, but but that showed me, man, that like a Scottish coach once said, some people say that soccer is about life and death. It's much more than that. And so when I was coaching, I felt like that was my philosophy. Not so anymore. I take myself less seriously. I take the game of soccer a little bit less seriously, but I've had some really highs in soccer. I've had a few lows. It just kind of happened by accident. And so then I chose to pursue a career in coaching soccer and left baseball aside.
So when making that jump onto Survivor, then what did you tell the soccer administration then when you were leaving?
Yeah, man, that was a brutal time in my life. Regret is a wasted emotion. So I don't regret much in life, if anything. there are things that I wish I could have done differently, and leaving to go on Survivor was one of them. I didn't want to be a reality star. They asked me the night before the cast was leaked in the CBS affiliate came up from Springfield. They had this big camera in my face, and they were like, tomorrow your life is going to change forever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, they're going to release the cast tomorrow. I was like, and the camera guy was like, yeah, dude, you're going to be like famous. I said, brother, I've always been famous. And he chuckled at that, and that's not me being, arrogant, but I've been in the newspaper my whole life. I mean, when I won the trumpet competition year after year, I was in the newspaper. I was on the front page of the LA Times for, that first kayak trip that I took. So I felt in my mind, it's like I'm already making a difference in whatever I do. So I don't think Survivor is going to change my life that much, although it did. It did change it a lot more than I thought it would. But I wasn't looking to go on Survivor. I get a random email one day from the casting producer of The Bachelor, and he says, hey, your girls' soccer team at SBU filled out an application and saying that they've never been around anybody quite like you, and they thought that you'd be a good fit for The Bachelor. We don't think that you'd be a good fit, of which at the time I was 36 and single. I took great umbrage to that, man. I was like, what are you talking about? I thought I was a ladies' man. But anyway, they didn't think well. So they just, it was this random email that came up, and they were like, but just judging from what they say you've done, you should apply for Survivor. www.cbs.com/application or whatever it was. They didn't do me any favors, but, they just said, this is what you should go on this show. You'd be a shoo-in for this show. So it was one of those moments where I was like, wow, is this destiny that's leading me towards this? And so I applied for the show. I wish I had that video. Man, that video was pretty cool. It grabbed their attention for sure. Me kayaking on CNN, me conducting my symphony, me coaching soccer, me in the weight room. It was like Coach Wade, no holds barred. And but it was on a friggin' VHS tape back then. And I don't have that. I wish I had it. I'm sure somebody in casting has it somewhere. But anyway, you're going through this casting process, and they just have the crap scared out of you. Just like if you leak, if you tell anybody, we're going to cancel the season even after it's filmed. Ridiculous stuff. That's not even true. But at the time, you think it's true. And I knew nothing about Survivor. I knew nothing. I didn't know about Ponderosa. I didn't know there was a challenge, a day off, tribal council. I didn't know any of that stuff. So I went out there really raw, which in hindsight was a really good thing. And I only watched a season or two in casting and realized, wow, they want to take the weakest player to the end. There's no honor in that. I've got a unique background, American Indian and Black German and Southern Han Chinese and Viking. And so I got all these backgrounds. I started studying warrior cultures. I went on a vision quest when I was younger. So, I was into that anyway. So I was like, how can I do this game differently? Anyway, so I'm going through casting. When are we leaving? Can't tell you that. Well, when are we leaving? Can't tell you that. When are we leaving? Can't tell you that. Mum's a word, especially back then, dude. It's different now with social media. Back then, you did not leak the cast. People were finding out where Survivor was going. They were like taking pictures of vans and windows so that they wouldn't take who was voted off. It was crazy time. Anyway, so finally they called me and congratulations, coach. You of season 18. I knew it. I knew I was going to make the cast from that very first phone call and from that very first email. And I was like, all right, when are we leaving? And they were like, 10 days. I was like, I'm not doing it. They're like, excuse me? I said, I'm in the middle of a college soccer season. We're off to the best start in school history. I'm leaving. They're not going to understand. And man, the casting executive, she was so pissed. She's like, we're going to blackball you in Hollywood. We've put so much time and money into you. And I was like, I apologize about you putting time and money into me. I don't care about Hollywood. You can blackball me all you want. I don't care about that. So I turned down Survivor. They were pissed, man. They were pissed. They sent me an email. This is how much money. Nobody tells us no. Anyway, I knew that the team wouldn't understand. In the NCAA, all the women's teams have a women's athletic director, and then you have an athletic director over the whole department. So you've got an athletic director, and then you've got what's called a SWA, senior women's administrator, and they're in charge of that. They're like athletic director for the women's sports. So a week later, 3 days before the cast leaves, I'm sitting there talking to my boss, and I was like, "Yeah, the other day I turned down Survivor," and she was a big fan. She was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I turned down Survivor." She was like, "You must be out of your mind." And I said, "No, the team won't understand. The right thing is for me to finish this season." We were 9-0-1 at that time, right? 9 wins, 0 losses, 1 tie. And she was like, "The team will understand. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity." I said, "I'm not doing it." She was like, "As your sport supervisor, I order you to call Survivor right now, call the casting executive, and tell them that you're going to go." I said, "They're not going to understand." Anyway, long story short, she said, "Yes, do it." I did it. The casting executive was like, "We don't want you." I said, "Okay, great, thanks, bye." And they were like, "No, wait. Okay, so if you promise and if you sign an affidavit," I said, "I'm not doing anything. You want me? I'm giving you my word. I'm going to be there." So they were like, "Okay, great." So they were all excited. So now I'm back on season 18. And so, it's like, what do you tell the team? I didn't tell my athletic director. I got fired because of it. And, just trying to do the right thing. I'd had radiation on a brain tumor that I had about 6 months before I actually collapsed on the soccer field. They took me to the hospital. I went through radiation. My assistant coaches were like, I was walking with a cane. They took care of it. Good. But when this happened, and I said, I got to go take care of stuff, everybody thought it was me going back and that the tumor had come back. I didn't say that that's not what it was. So I misled them into thinking that I had something wrong. And it was foolish. Like looking back on it, I wish I was more knowledgeable about Survivor and the casting process. I would have told the casting process, guys, to go to hell. I'd leak the cast. I'm going on Survivor, guys. Got to go. But I wish I would have handled that differently. So went on Survivor, came back. Guess what? The team didn't win a game after I left. Something that I live with to this day, that makes me wish somehow, some way I could have handled things differently on my departure. Got fired for it. For every action, there's a reaction, and I live with that. I live with that mistake.
Wow, that is like one of the wildest casting stories I think I've heard. So you had no television
stuff, right?
Yeah, you had no television aspirations or like any reality TV interest then, I would presume.
Yeah, I was just living my life, man. I
Yeah.
was like, I felt like I was a rock star anyway. So, I didn't need anything from TV. And I think that's also, it's like, I think that grounds me now. I could name you, I don't know how many people have played Survivor. I don't know how many people have been on a reality show. Let's say 50,000, probably more than that, right? I'd say 49,950 of those people are hoping that they get a call one day to go back and do something that they really like to do. I'm one of those 50 that if Survivor, my wife asked me the other day, I went and filmed something down in LA on Sunday, down and back, and enjoyed myself and thought, yeah, the camera's right for me. I probably owe it to the fans and myself and everybody to go on to the show one more time on Survivor. But it's got to be the right time. It's got to be the right theme. Not just going to go out there and just do any old thing. And Big Brother called me. I wouldn't do it. Anyway, so it's just, I thought, yeah, maybe I should do it again. So I told my wife, she said, "Did you have a good time?" I said, "Yeah, I liked it. I like being in front of the camera. Camera likes me. I like the camera. I'm actually an idiot. I'm actually not very smart. But when I'm in front of a crowd, when I'm on the soccer field, when the pressure is on, I become really smart and really eloquent. So even when the camera flipped on in the studio, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just gained like 20 IQ points. I can actually think straight. Like right now, this is like not me in real life. This is me, high energy, you get good time. And I've always been really excellent at excelling under pressure. So Jessica, my wife, said, well, what if Survivor went off the air? Would you be bummed? Because she was really trying to figure out where I was at. So I thought about it for a second. I said, if Survivor went off the air, I'd actually be relieved. Really? I don't really want to go out there again. I don't need it. I feel I owe it again to the fans, myself, my family, the legacy, the legend season. Got to cement the Dragon Slayer. So, but I told her, I said, if it went off the air tomorrow, I'd probably be relieved, pleasantly surprised and pleased.
Yeah, because then it's almost like that chapter of your life, like you can finally kind of close it and it doesn't linger. Even when like you're not in the game, there's like a game outside of the game, which is essentially social media and the fans.
I mean, you know more than anybody. Do you see all the sycophantic BS that happens? Sycophant is a nice word for an ass kisser. Do you see all of the ass kissing that goes on in social media between members of a show that is like in their back of their minds, they're thinking they might play with that person again. So they're sitting there blowing smoke up people's butts and just, oh man, oh, it's so awesome, and I miss you, and this, and you're so awesome. They don't think that way. I mean, some people do. I'm being cynical. Forgive me, but it's like they're all doing it because what you just said right there, man. They're still playing the game, and I'm
Yeah.
doing it too a little bit. Okay, I'm doing it too a little bit. I hate to say it, as authentic as I am, I'm doing it a little bit. But actually, I do it with Parvati, Boston Rob, Ethan, and Tyson. And chances are, out of those four people, probably one of those people are coming back. So even though I'm doing it, I'm probably doing it for the right reasons because I actually really do like those four people, even Boston Rob. But anyway, so yeah, I mean they're not all coming back. So it's not like I'm going out there and thinking, oh, this person's going to be on a legend season, so I got to go kiss their butts. But if Survivor were off the air permanently, would I post on Boston Rob's stuff? Probably not. Parvati stuff, maybe. Ethan's stuff, I don't know. Jason's stuff, nah. So I mean, I guess I'm still playing it too a little bit.
Well, you kind of groomed Tyson into like kind of what he's become. You guys did your first season together, and he was your quote unquote assistant coach. And then you also shared your first emotional moment on television in terms of like letting your guard down and kind of letting people get underneath the hood a little bit when it came to like your mind on the Heroes Villain season when you kind of broke down. It's kind of incredible what that dynamic led to.
Dude, I've got the Midas touch, man. If you think about it. Now, I will say this, right? I'm going to say this, man. Like, I'm a regular guy. I choose to do extraordinary things. I'm just a regular guy. And I don't take myself seriously. I used to take myself really seriously. And in these interviews, I do get a little bit of that Coach Moxie back, right? But let's face it, I have the Midas touch because I did everything wrong in my seasons. And the people that I played with probably took a chapter out of Coach Wade's book, How Not to Do Things. But Tyson, Cochran, Boston Rob, those guys all did not win until they played with me. And then they were like, oh, yeah, this is what not to do. So it is cool to see that, right? And actually, Tyson, he really become an afterthought in the Survivor world. I knew for a fact, man, I got some deep connections in the Survivor world on that side, not the cast side, right? And Tyson was like really, and I thought, I'm going to go on Blood versus Water. I'm going to do it with my cousin. Maybe I'll do it with my wife. The contract was there. They switched the dates before my kids. They switched the dates. So I moved my wedding. They switched the dates again. You should have heard that conversation. I shoot them out and dropped the F-bombs about 20 times and said, don't ever call me again. I'm done with you guys. I don't ever want to play Survivor again. So it was 2 weeks before they left.
Wow.
Well, they find somebody that's doing nothing that doesn't have a real job. Their choices are Ozzy, Tyson, and smattering a few other people. Boston Rob, had just gotten off the show, but there's not many people just sitting around that can leave in 3 days or 2 weeks time, whatever it was. I don't remember. Anyway, so they called Tyson. I told them, nope, piss off. And they immediately called Tyson. So he still owes me a royalty check from that season where he won $1 million, which then caused him to go on marriage boot camp and come back for Winners at War, which caused him to be invited to the challenge. So he owes a lot of his career to me for saying no to Blood versus Water.
Wow. I think that's a nice little tidbit there then. Wow. I think many people probably thought that like your retirement was like, all right, this is it, like on the season 23, and that was all it was. But we came fairly close to seeing you again, that means.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It was like At that point in my life, it was kind of like my job. My soccer career was toast. I mean, I did still coach after that, but blackballed from the NCAA and, doing the symphony. So my schedule was a little bit more flexible. My bosses at that time really wanted to see me go on Survivor again. And so it was almost Coach 4.0. I'm glad I didn't go. I'm glad that I saved myself the longer that I'm off air. I think the more people think, wow, there really hasn't been anybody quite like him.
Mm.
And so that means that brings validity if I ever come back again.
Did they try to get you onto the challenge too?
I got some murmurings for that, and Tyson was talking to me, and I think that I could have gotten onto the challenge, but I just ghosted everybody on that. So I will tell you a funny story just about you said about 23 and you thought that, I was retired. I'm good. I don't know if I'm good friends with Jeff Probst. In my mind, I am. He probably doesn't think that, but we've had some really good conversations over the years. And at the finale of 23, before we took the stage, I still thought I was going to win. But I was talking to him one-on-one and before the show, and he was like, man, you had such a great run. It's like, I never would have thought you could do it. And, you were supposed to be voted out and you led from start to finish. You never were in jeopardy of getting voted out. I said, yeah, it really was quite incredible. I don't think people really want to coach on Survivor, but for whatever reason, that tribe wanted to coach. A lot of it had to do with Albert. He was a great assistant coach, great at pushing the team mentality and validating me behind the scenes. Most underrated player, I think, in Survivor history. But anyway, so I said, Probst, should I ever go back again? Because I really feel like I should retire after this. And he thought about it and he was like, well, from a production standpoint, we talk about you every single season. We'd like for you to come back every single season from a production standpoint. As your friend, he was like, you're never going to do better than this. You'll never have a better season than this. And I would retire. It's pretty cool. It stuck with me all these years.
Yeah, it's almost like the ones that kind of come back continuously, like brand themselves in a way, right? Like there's the situations from prior seasons and their stigmas kind of linger with them, so it almost makes it impossible to A, make it to the end, and then B, going on the show in general becomes pointless because then it draws you so far out of your normal routine and schedule in your real life. So it's like, at what point is it even worth it?
Right. I mean, I think, like nowadays, you look at the prize money. I was really pleased that they made Winners at War $2 million. I mean, that's what the show should be anyway. $1 million after taxes in California gives you $540,000.
Yeah.
That might change your life, but at my status and my station in life right now, that's not going to change my life at all. I wouldn't buy a car. I wouldn't buy a house. I've already got those things, man. I got a Maserati Gran Turismo in the garage, and I got the car from Mad Max and Mafia 3. It's a 72 Buick muscle car. I don't need any cars. Nothing's going to change. So, it's like, why go out there? What is the opportunity cost with the family and even financially? I made $30,000 as a soccer coach a year, right? I was broke as a joke, man. So getting the possibility to win 30,000 on Survivor after taxes, which I did, at least each time, that was actually like, cool. That's like a year's wage. Now I'm losing that money. And how much money am I going to get? So it's just, is it really worth it? And, again, like you said, branding yourself, coming back and back again. Although I think if I went back there, I mean, I've already branded myself. I am literally a one-trick pony. I am loyal. I am easily duped. Everybody's going to beat me at Final Tribal. So I think that people will want to play with me. I think a lot of people will say this guy can just be led around by the nose. And it doesn't matter what I want to do when I go out there. I cannot do anything else. It is my armor. Survivor sucks. Okay? Survivor sucks. I'm 50 years old now. But when I'm a bushman, when I'm in the Amazon, the Orinoco, the Congo, the Darien Gap, when I'm kayaking 6 months in the Pacific Ocean, and it sucks, and there's a very realistic chance that I'm going to die. That's the uncomfortability, right? And the monotony. But I got a dry bag. I got clean clothes. I got something to eat. I got a tent. On Survivor, you probably will not die. So you take that factor away. You play with a bunch of friggin' knuckleheads. that don't really care about you at the end of the day, and but you are not eating, and there is nothing dry, and it's so it sucks. It's miserable, and so I can't. That's my armor. I go out there. I cannot play any other way. I thought on Heroes and Villains, maybe I'll try to not be a man of my word. And the second I hit the beach, it was like, my word is my bond. This is how I am in real life. This is how I'm going to be on the show. And I couldn't get out of that. I couldn't get out of that branding, so to speak. So I think that people will want to play with me. So that means I think that I'll have a decent shot if I go on a Legend season. But I don't ever see myself winning. The game is not meant for somebody like me to win the game. Nobody wants to coach. Nobody wants honor. Nobody wants to take the strongest to the end. And nobody wants somebody that's put together, that has a great, happy life, that's not searching for Survivor to make them whole. That's not sitting there at tribal council saying, Survivor has really changed me and made me who I was today. I can't say that. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to win Survivor.
When you first came onto Survivor, your first season, was that your intent when it came to kind of changing the direction of the show with getting stronger people to the end and kind of playing an honorable game? Was that your intention?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, when I went out there, and again, it was just a fleeting thought the second time around, trust nobody, slay everybody. I said that in the promo. And then I realized that's just not me. So I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to change subjects, or change my answer, and just flip to another season to show you just how much it means to me. Cochran and Edna came up to me. This is in season 23 for people that don't know what I'm talking about. And Boston Rob texted me at that time and said, "You won the game, man. Congratulations, you're in the club." And then Cochran came up to me and said, "You won this game." Cochran was like, "Nobody likes a turncoat." Edna was like, "You are literally dragging me. If you take us to the end, you've won this game, hands down. And congratulations. We're never going to turn on you." And I knew that they weren't going to turn on me. And I thought about it, and I agonized over it. And it's like I made a commitment, my word, on the very first day, these 5 people are going to get to the end. And Cochran and Edna were not in that list. And so I pissed on $1 million. And I did that knowing that taking Albert and Sova to the end could be my demise. I make that decision 10 times out of 10, brother. What is your cost? What do you sell out for? Are you worth $1 million? If somebody told you they give you $1 million, if you went out and started filming pornos, well, if somebody says they'll give you $1 million if you go out and cheat this old lady. I think most people have a price. I don't have a price. There's not a cost that's going to make me compromise. I've done it before. I did it when I left that first time. I compromised my integrity. I'm planning on doing it again. So going back to the first season, I started looking at the show during casting and realizing, I probably can't say this, you'll have to bleep it out, but I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? Like, they tried to get me for the first season. Okay? I was on the front page of the LA Times. They reached out to me to be on the first season of Survivor. And when I got they sent me a flyer and they were like, "You need to be on this show. The show is made for you." And I looked at the flyer and I'm like, heck yeah, man, let me see what this is all about. Oh, it's about cheating. It's about lying. It's not about who can survive the longest out there. It's actually it's like a game. It's like, I'm not going to do it. So I boycotted it. It's part of the reason why I never watched it. And, so you fast forward watching the show and I'm just like, this sucks, man. Like, what is this? What honor is this? You look at the ancient samurai, nobody wanted to grow old. The Vikings, nobody wanted to grow old. Somebody that was sitting old and fat means that they weren't a true warrior. They wanted to be decapitated. They wanted to be lanced through the heart as they were defeating the chieftain from another tribe. There was honor in defeat. My soccer team, my winning percentage, that's something that I never really talk about. My winning percentage was .908 for 22 years of soccer coaching. I started 6 programs from scratch in that time. I was the number 2 winningest active soccer coach behind Anson Dorrance for most of my career. So I'm going to take my team in the NCAA and we're going to go play Lebanon High School and beat them 20-0. Who would stand for that? Nobody would stand for that. If we go and lose to the University of Tennessee 1-0 in a freaking epic showdown, that's where it's at. That's why we coach. That's why we seek. to play games that have scores. So with Survivor, I'm like, this sucks, man. And I'm going to bring in this history. I'm going to bring in the layers of Viking heaven. I'm going to bring in the samurai culture. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to really try to change this game and make it be about empowering people instead of getting people at their lowest and then asking them to make poor decisions. You want to know how people really are that have been on reality shows psychologically?
Not good.
They're not good, man. I talked to a production company down in LA. I said, you gotta do a reality documentary. You got to do a documentary called Surviving Survivor, right? I mean, it's bad.
Yeah.
And it's partially because of that. It's partially because these people who were maybe not anybody now become something. And it was a struggle for me. The second time you go on, it's not as manic. People don't care about you as much. When you go back a third time, it's a little bit less. You're never going to feel that. It's like your fat cells. You get them big, they're going to shrink, but they're never going to shrink all the way. You go out on Survivor the first time, you go on Big Brother the first time, it explodes all the attention, and then it starts to fade. They're always wanting to fill up those fame fat cells and feel that what they felt that first time. Never going to happen. And so, I really wanted to change it to be about empowering people. And that was my biggest mistake the first time. I thought I'd really go out there and say, look, guys, let's use this as I've used things in my past to make ourselves men and women in this day and age when a light to the world is few and far between. And that was my biggest mistake. People didn't want that. So anyway, yeah, 100%. That was my goal, to take the strongest to the end. That's why when Sierra said, hey, you should vote out JT, you should vote out this person, I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take the strongest to the end. And if I die in that battle, then so be it.
Do you feel like you were misunderstood at all on the show? Because, they painted you as like the moniker of the villain on the villains team for the second season, but your motives were very clear, like to play an honorable game. So that way it's kind of like a little bit of a confusing thing to see you kind of painted as like a villain. Do you feel like you were misunderstood on the show?
Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't a great that I was the biggest oxymoron that the show's ever seen. Nobody knows where I'm coming from. Why do you think production likes me? Because I can be philosophical. I can be kind of athletic. Wasn't the first time, but I can be a little bit of an athlete. I can be a coach. I can be sensitive. I can quote Nietzsche. I'm a complete crazy person that some people think. The producers loved it. And it was hard at first, that's why I was so distraught in the second one. Was I misunderstood? Yes, I wasn't misunderstood by production, I'll tell you that. They knew exactly what they were doing, and thank goodness they did it. As brutal as it was, and as difficult as it was for my father to call me mid-season of that first show and say, I'm not going to watch this show ever again. My whole family boycotted it. And I said, Dad, you got to watch. It's going to get good. I think they're going to turn. I think I'm going to turn into some type of hero at the end. My dad was like, they're making a jackass out of my son on national television. Why would I want to watch that? As tough as all that was, I could have been a nobody. They could have ignored me. They could have said, this guy's too eccentric, and we're just going to snuff his storyline. There's been a lot of great people out there on Survivor. Look at Albert. Albert was a classic example. Great storyline. They freaking snuffed his torch, man. They snuffed his torch for whatever reason. Maybe it was because I was out there getting all the camera time and they only had one room for one coach. But there's a lot of great people that play, and they just don't get it. So I'm glad that they understood absolutely.
Yeah, and you had one of the best episodes referred to in the history of the show on your first season. I believe it was episode 13, The Martyr's Approach. And that was the episode that you went on Exiled. You had quite the crazy Exile experience from what I read, right? I read something about like 2 like cats or something was what you encountered.
And doesn't matter to me if you've watched the episode or not. If you've watched it recently or you watched it when it came out, doesn't matter to me. I would encourage you to go back and watch that episode, man. That episode is one of a kind. And again, what honor they did to do that. At that point in the show, I was actually completely caught up in the now. There was no, reality outside of that moment. And the doctors, they said the same thing. They were like, do not go without food, do not go without water. Your body, I lost 8 inches of muscle around my chest, right? I was a 44 going in, I was a 36 coming out, I was 149 pounds coming in, and when I went, or coming out, and when I went through casting, I was 205 pounds.
Wow.
So I was emaciated, and my body was just getting stronger. It was a beautiful thing. It's really an affirmation of the power of the mind. We're using 10% of our brain. And I was so completely without distractions. There was no cell phone. There was no, what are you going to wear? There was no networking. There was no emails. There was no recruiting. There was no job. My job was to be in the moment at a very high level of meditation, Koji, Qigong, whatever you want to call it, and praying, singing songs every day. Man, I mean, I was like walking with the creator of the universe out there. And it was powerful, man. I'll tell you, it was powerful. And getting sent to Exile Island, it's a favorite place I've ever been to in this world. And I've been around the world literally 10 times. And it is the place that I will go to before I die. If I couldn't go travel ever again, that's one place I'm going to go before I die. And they say that there's these massive crystals underneath the surface. It was spiritual and it was epic. And when I went out there, I was on another plane, literally. Like you see people make fun of it, and Buddhist priests that are on another plane, and they're up in the clouds. I was living it, man. It was crazy. And so it was great that they honored that episode and showed me physically pushing my body to the absolute limit. There were big cats out there. There was anacondas. I was in my element. No fear of anything, to just go out there and really embrace everything that Exile had to offer. And it was interesting because, like my body was falling apart. I couldn't breathe. My back was killing me. I was like an old man hobbling around. And so I was afraid to go to Exile. In fact, I watched that episode the other day because my students wanted to watch it. They were like, during finals, we're done with all of our projects. Can we just watch something? Can we watch an episode of Survivor? So I played that episode. And so I haven't gotten to that episode with my son yet. So I hadn't watched it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, man, you're whining and you're really acting like a baby. And I was kind of like upset, seeing it after all these years. But seeing how I pushed my body through that, it was a beautiful thing to watch.
What happened when you saw the cats? Like, were you like trying to get away from them, or like did they get away from you? Like, how did that sequence go down?
Okay, so I mean, I physically did not see the cats. I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you the story. So when I'm going out there, the producer was driving me out there with a truck because it's like out in the middle of, we were in the middle of nowhere. Exile was in the middle of nowhere. And so he's driving out there, and then we park, and then I hike in about 20-minute walk, I'd say. So as he's driving out there, they're not allowed to speak to you. And I'm like, what's happening, dude? And he's just like, does that. And I was like, well, how long is this drive? We might as well talk to each other. And he's like, we're not supposed to talk to you guys. I'm like, who's going to know, man? And so I started buttering him up. I'm like, how do you like your job? He was like, I don't really like it. And I'm like, why not, man? You're working for the greatest show on TV. He was like, I filmed 3 days at Exile. I got all this content, and they show like 15 seconds. And I looked at him and I said, dude, we were going to change that. And he kind of looked at me and I was like, we're going to change that. And so he's giving me the rundown of what's out there. And he was like, there are these two big cats. We're in their territory. There's two big cats. And he was like, you are not to leave my sight. And da-da-da-da-da. If you go to the bathroom, you tell me. I'll turn the other way. Yada, yada, yada. So we get there, man. And straight away, I see these huge cat prints leading off across the sand dune and into the jungle. It's a really cool place. Jungle, savanna, grassland, desert. Like 4 ecosystems, completely diverse, meeting in this exact location. It's incredible. And so anyway, so I see these cat prints, man, and I tell the guy, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. He's like, okay. So he turns his back, and I start like hobbling the direction of the cat prints, and he friggin' got so pissed at me, and he's like yelling my name, and I'm friggin' hightailing it, man. And I get to the forest, and there are these big 8-foot tall grasses, and there's this line that there's like a gaming trail that they've worn through these grasses with their massive bodies and to get down to the water. So I follow that trail. The producer's running after me, friggin' cussing me out. Stop, you don't know how dangerous this is. They were there, man. Like I could feel them, but I didn't see them. So anyway, the second night I was there, the producer's in a tent. I'm sleeping out in the open, man. And I just had this sixth sense that was like, hey, before you go to sleep, you need to scatter ashes from a previous fire around your body. You got to mark your territory. So I was sleeping out in the open. So I took the coals, not the fire. I took the little embers that were dry. They were just the, whatever you call them, charcoal. So I put them around where I was going to sleep. And then I peed all around the outline of where I was going to be. I go to sleep. And in the middle of the night, I hear the producer in his tent and his walkie-talkies going off. And they got people out all over the place. They got snake handlers, big cat experts. They're all out over there, man. That was a wild, nasty location we were at. So they're on the walkie, and they're like, the big cats are coming. And the producer's like, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, I don't know, but they're headed right for you. Stay in your tent. I'm freaking like out there, man. I just freaking go back to sleep. I mean, the producer was like freaking out. I'm like, hey, man, if this is how I go, and I got a family now, right? So I'd probably be knocking on the guy's tent and climbing in with him now. But at the time, I was invincible, man. I face it. Man, we could have 15 different podcasts of different, situations that I've been in out in the bush where I didn't think I was going to make it to live to see the next day, let alone the next minute. So anyway, I just went back to sleep. So the next morning I wake up and those cats came. And they were the two pair of big, massive paws. It's in the sand, so you can see when they're leaving their tracks. And they circled around me several times in the night. And we're talking, they were inches from me, because that's where their prints were. And the producer saw them the next morning, man. He was like all freaked out. And it was like, we're good, brother.
That's
not my first rodeo with wildlife. So. It was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah. This will be a final question now. I got to know, after all these years, is Russell Hantz still your arch-nemesis?
To quote Boston Rob, you put me back on the island with Russell, man. I'll kick his ass all over the island. My animosity towards Russell has lessened over the years. He's apologized for voting me off. He's like, it was really Sandra. And when I watched the episode, I was like, yeah, Russell did get I did give him the short end of the stick. But, you make friends out there. I try to let water under the bridge, right? But, there's certain people that if you play with again, you try to patch things up. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't think things could be patched up with him. I don't think things could be patched up with Ozzy. I don't think things could be patched up with a few other people.
Well, who knows? Maybe since the century mark seems to be whenever they do these big themes, who knows? Maybe season 50 we'll get a Legends theme, and maybe that situation will come to be. So you never know.
But I think that they should have. I think season 50 they should have 50 contestants, and they should have 2 simultaneous games going on, and it should be on twice a week. And you start with 25 on each tribe, and the first night. 5 people are packing. They get sent home. So now you got 40. But the tribes don't know that there's another tribe competing. So when they get down to the final 5, they think they've made it. And then all of a sudden they get merged with another tribe and there's 10 people who would friggin' do their head in. It would be like Survivor XL. Like they have Naked and Afraid XL. It would be like Survivor XL. It would blow everybody's minds.
Well, now that you're saying that, they might steal your format. So who knows?
I know.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and sharing some great stories today and just gracing your presence overall on my show today. And thank you so much again for being here.
I appreciate you asking me, and I couldn't sign off without just saying that I feel like I've been blessed in this land. I'm at a place in my life where I want to give back to people, and for those people out there that are chasing fame and power and money, and just to tell them, be careful, man. It's like chasing a ghost. You achieve that fame, it's not enough. You achieve that money, it's not enough. You achieve that power, it's not enough. Seek things inside that will empower your soul and that will edify who you are on the inside, and therefore radiate out to people on the outside of you. It'll leave a ripple effect that will long outlast and outshine your cognizant thoughts of those words and deeds.
Hmm. Well, thank you again for those great words of inspiration, and have a great rest of your day. Have a nice time at the party.
Awesome, my man. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you.